saw the racket floor.
War's over, brother. Peace broke out.
That's nice.
We just won a war, Prime Minister. Now, it appears we've lost its greatest heroine.
Lost track of her, Mom, for the time being.
Well, where is she? I understand the Lord Mayor was arranging a parade. Royal Fusiliers.
She was last seen entering a convent of nuns in Bermondsey.
Nuns? Catholic nuns?
Yes, Mom.
Are we still in England? I thought you knew the family.
I do. Highly respected people.
And yet their daughter.
I would say she was always unusual, Mom.
Oh, my poor, brave little girl. Come, my dear.
My beloved mother and father. How they fought to keep me at home. Fought all my plans and dreams for myself. But now that I'm a national heroine, how proud they are. They even call me brave. Brave. Brave for doing my duty. The soldiers, they were the brave ones. Lying there, strapped down, while their shattered legs were hacked off. And no chloroform for the lower ranks. I'm still in a rage about it. Still there. The tree. The little bench. The garden where all my troubles first began. Then, if scripture is to be believed, isn't a garden where all our troubles first began? I was so young. I was innocent. No thoughts of war or disease. My only struggle, how to escape from a life that was poisoning me with vanity and social expectations. But one day something happened that changed me forever. I remember sunlight so bright, too bright. Then a voice. Really, a voice. I was being asked, no, I was being told in no uncertain terms that my life belonged to God, that He had work for me to do. Yes, Lord, let me think of Thy will, only of Thy will. Let me serve You, You alone. Well, how could I? I had to admit God's message was sadly lacking in details. What exactly was I to do? All I knew was that I was being stifled. No food for my head, no food for my heart. Slowly dying in a diet of triviality. I prayed, God, show me a way out. Teach me, tell me. And yet, when He did at last and I answered the call, oh, the things I saw. No rest for me now then. Not till the truth is told to all.
Listen to this. An American has written a poem about the war.
Everyone's writing poems about the war, dear.
Yes, well, this one's all the rage, apparently. Whene'er a noble deed is wrought, whene'er is spoken a noble thought, lo, in that house of misery, a lady with a lamp I see. She passes through the glimmering gloom and flits from room to room.
Flits? I doubt if our Florence has ever flitted in her life.
Well, Mr. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow thinks she does, so who are we to argue?
Oh,
Flo, are you all right?
Florence, what are you doing downstairs?
Please, stop. If anyone asks me any more questions, I'll buy a revolver and shoot them. Well, anyone except the Queen. What are they saying now?
Mr. Longfellow's written a poem about you.
An entire army murdered. And what's being done about it? Absolutely nothing. Well, we should have to see about that. And some air.
Florence, no, not outside. You'll catch your death of cold.
At least wear a coat.
My dear Papa. Always the skeptic, never sure about anything. Though years ago, when I was struggling to discover God's will for me, he did at least try to understand my pain and help me.
Flo? I wish... If only...
If only I could be satisfied with the life that satisfies you. I can't be.
But you make it so hard for yourself.
When I heard my call, I didn't hear it would be easy.
Your call.
Papa, you've never believed in it, not for a minute. Have you?
Well,
I thought not. You don't know what struggle is. And so we continued to observe our uneasy truce.
A nurse, which I will never agree to.
That is God's way for me.
Don't bring God into this again. It has nothing to do with him, and you know it. I will not allow you to disgrace yourself, emptying slop buckets, living at the beck and call of lechers and drunks. Have you any idea what goes on in hospitals? No woman of character would ever... Yes, dear?
Fanny, my love, the Colonel's just leaving. What shall I say to him?
Tell him there's no tyranny like the petty tyranny of a good English family.
Why does she have to spoil everything?
You have to speak to that girl, Wen.
Yes.
After that, everything changed. Dismayed but resigned, my parents gave in, and I set about acquiring the largest hospital experience man or woman ever had. Nothing. Nothing at all.
My dear, the British public has had quite enough of the Crimean catastrophe. It's over.
No, it's only just begun. The catastrophe, I mean, with our silence. You must help me, Sydney. You absolutely must. You always have, and you can do it again. I know you can. Otherwise, everything we've been through these past 2 years will have been for nothing.
Florence, I'm no longer Minister at War. Just a plain old, humble member of Parliament making occasional speeches.
Very fine occasional speeches, Sydney, if I may say so.
I brought you this.
You don't have to bring me presents. Just tell me justice will be done.
May I see?
Sir John Hall, for instance, that miserable excuse for a military surgeon. Has he been court-martialed, stripped of his command?
No,
Entered a monastery, perhaps, to do some well-deserved penance?
not quite.
Blackballed from his club, at least.
He's been given a KCB.
A KCB. Which stands for Knight of the Crimean Burial Grounds, I suppose.
Flo.
What a beautiful brooch.
Bit overdone, isn't it?
But see who it is from.
In appreciation of her service, Victoria.
Her Majesty will be in Balmoral next week. She wants to meet you and to talk. I believe she may even be inclined to listen. Now, this is important, Florence. The Queen is very interested in the fate of the army. You must remember, she thinks of it as her army. That's the way to engage her interest. Do you follow me?
Do try to be tactful, Florence. Don't say anything that might upset Her Majesty. Nothing about maggots and wounds and frostbite and limbs falling off. Please.
offer you some tea, dear?
Thank you, Mum.
Please continue.
Yes, Mum. We lost 10,000 men in 6 months, mostly through gross incompetence, and I came home to find that many of the officers responsible had been promoted. Given honours, medals, titles, crimes were committed, terrible suffering inflicted that could easily have been avoided.
Yes, Miss Nightingale, but what exactly entitles you to be the judge of that?
I studied and visited all the hospitals in London, Dublin, Edinburgh, Paris, Rome and Berlin.
Secure. And your parents permitted all of this?
They came to understand that I had a calling, that this has truly been God's will for me.
I see. And what is it you suggest we do about these crimes, as you call them?
A royal commission, Ma'am.
A royal commission?
Nothing less than a royal commission will suffice to bring out the truth. It is our sacred duty to the Crimean dead. And if I may, Your Majesty, it is also a heaven-sent opportunity to reform the entire hospital system of the nation, not just of the army. Beg your pardon, Ma'am. Of your army. Forgive me, Ma'am. It has been a lifelong dream of mine.
We shall think about it.
How eager and proud they all were when they first set out. The very names of those regiments made our hearts beat faster. The Royal Dragoons, the Grenadier Guards, the 93rds, the Enniskillings, the Coldstream Guards, the Royal Fusiliers. Off they went, with their brand new rifles and pretty sparkling uniforms. Off to teach the Russian Bear a lesson. The finest army in the world, we thought. Invincible, we thought. Back home in a month, we thought. The casualties mounted and the death rate soared. Thousands died of disease and neglect. But the soldiers were writing home, and the London Times sent out its best reporter. Before long, the appalling truth was known in every English parlour. Only then did we begin to understand the full horror of what our men were going through.
Listen to this. It is with feelings of anger and surprise that the public will learn that no preparations have been made to care for our wounded in the Crimea. Not only are there not sufficient surgeons, there's not even linen to make bandages. Arriving at the hospital, they lie in their own waste, covered by a single blanket, eating meat, raw, stiff with salt, or rotten with maggots.
Not over breakfast, dear, please.
Let me see.
Excuse me, Mother.
At last, I knew what I must do. All my training could now be put to use. But I needed an ally. So I wrote to my dear old friend, Sidney Herbert, now a powerful member of the War Cabinet. As it happened, a letter from him crossed with mine in the post.
Dear Miss Nightingale, I have recently been receiving letters from ladies offering to go out to the Crimea and give medical care to our injured troops. I know of only one person in England capable of organising and directing such a scheme. Yourself. I suggest that you start interviewing likely candidates as soon as possible.
Day, only to discover that while many called themselves nurses, few of
At a convent in Bermondsey, we see every kind of disease and deformity.
You're a Catholic order, I believe.
We make it our business to save the body first. Then, and only then, do we attend to the soul. If that's what concerns you.
We leave in a week. How many can you bring? To hell on earth. It was, in fact, the main hospital for receiving the casualties from the Crimea. It was there I met Sir John Hall, Chief Medical Officer for the British Army in the East.
No chloroform for the lower ranks, Mr. Davis. Let us hear the man bawl lustily. At least then we'll know he's still alive. Fine, carry on.
Sir?
Ah, Miss Nightingale. I'd heard you were coming.
And from what I've seen so far, not a moment too soon.
Maybe so, and maybe not. As I read the instructions from your friend, the Right Honourable Sidney Herbert, you are under the clear direction of the medical staff here. That means that neither you nor any of your ladies will do anything without the express written permission of a military doctor. In other words, Miss Nightingale, here in my hospital, you are in charge of nothing with the exception of your personal laundry. Am I clear?
But do let us know when you need help.
See to them.
Do we have to give them rations, sir?
Certainly not.
This way.
The quarters we were herded into were squalid and cramped, alive with vermin. The air heavy with the stench of fever and death.
Oh, so that's where he went. Been missing for a day or two. Sorry about that, ladies. We'll have it removed forthwith.
First, the strongest of you to the washtubs. Everyone else, let us have those floors swept, the windows cleaned, that stove working. That was the moment of victory. We were liberated, set free to do what we had trained for and had come to do. But after victory comes counterattack, in the shape of a system seemingly designed to create confusion. The officials in charge of supplies, I soon discovered, were masters of red tape, experts in obfuscation and delay. I was clearly marked out as the enemy. I needed allies, and I knew of only two sources I could rely on. The good Lord who never left me through all my trials, and his chief angel of mercy, my old friend Sidney Herbert. Dear Mr. Herbert, the supply officers fix their attention on the correctness of their bookkeeping as the primary object of life. Last week we had run out of bread, soap, carrots, poultices, and many other necessities. How could even Jesus not be? How did he persist?
He was the love of God incarnate. He could love the good even in the worst.
Could Jesus love Sir John Hall when he forbids the men chloroform?
If Sir John Hall sins, I believe the sacrifice of Jesus can redeem it.
Sometimes I think I expect too much from God.
Well, he is God Almighty, Florence, and not your private secretary.
I suppose not. If he were, I'd say send more bedpans, Lord.
Can't get around it, Florence. God is in charge, not you.
Time for rounds.
They love you, you know. Those soldiers.
Then I'm most blessed. My poor man, who endured so patiently. I've been such a bad mother to you. God.
Excuse me, please. Excuse me.
Not to be disturbed,
Where's my daughter?
especially by her family.
I have to see my daughter. I've been told she hasn't eaten for a week.
Well, we can't exactly force her to eat.
You didn't even call a doctor.
I'm sure she's fine, sir. Mr. Nightingale!
Florence!
Florence! Flo? I'm aware that we need to talk. We haven't always done that, have we? I'm also aware that there have been times in my life when I've been too distant. Too much in my books, my thoughts. But you know I always loved you. Don't you?
Yes, Papa. Yes, I do.
And yet, in a way, I feel I was always a little afraid of you.
You. Of me.
Well, you are so independent, so headstrong.
Well, I had to be, didn't I?
Yes. Of course, you know, I had ambitions too. Politics. William Edward Nightingale, MP. I thought that had a nice ring to it. Better than good old Wen, decent chap, but not much good at getting the vote out. Well, I wasn't to be. I've been left behind in the race. A lot of races. Whereas you, on the other hand...
Papa, I'm sure if there's a House of Commons in the next life, you'll be a member.
Perhaps that my real calling in life was to be your teacher when you were little.
Except, you see, one can be wrong about one's calling.
Oh, Flo, be patient with yourself. Haven't I always said that the world needs pioneers?
Yes, many times.
And you are just such a pioneer.
But if you're a pioneer and you lead others into a swamp, into death, how can you not blame yourself?
What if it's all part of a plan?
What is?
The mistakes.
So when God called me, he called me to make mistakes. But you don't believe in my call, do you?
I believe in you, my little genius.
No. You think the call was just my own voice, don't you? Nothing more.
Well, I think once I did, but now I...
What?
Oh, does it matter?
It matters to me.
What I think?
Yes, Father.
Then I think that you are human, and that God is God. And he teaches us all through our mistakes, and all we common mortals can do is work through trial and error.
For my errors, I'm now on trial.
And what about Jesus?
What do you mean?
I heard you in the church when you were praying, when you thought you were alone. My God, why hast thou forsaken me?
I meant... I once felt so close to God. And now...
I know. And I meant that you are not the first to feel that despair. Yet, when you look back on it, that suffering led to great good.
But I'm not Christ.
Precisely. Flo, let God be the judge. He's in charge, not you.